Picture this. It's late. The city is quiet, and you're standing in front of a window, looking down at the lights. Somewhere out there, someone is closing a deal. Someone is scrolling a bank app in a panic. Someone is buying something they don't need for a reason they can't explain. And you're here, thinking about money. Not the numbers in a cell or the grass that moves like a heartbeat, but the feeling money creates, the silent tug of desire, the worry when the month stretches longer than the paycheck, the pride of buying something with your own effort, the shame of a mistake you made when you were younger. Money is the most crowded room in your mind, even when no one else can see it. You tell yourself it's just math, that if you could learn the right formula, you'd finally be at peace. But then something tiny happens, a headline, a text from a friend, a sudden bill, and your certainty turns to fog. You feel the ground shift and realize the truth. Money lives in behavior long before it settles into a bank account. Tonight, as the lights flicker and your reflection stares back, I want to talk to you as a friend, not to give you rules that pretend to be perfect, but to offer you a way to think that stays steady when the world is not. Because the story you tell yourself about money is the story that decides your life. And if you can rewrite that story, you can change your future in ways a spreadsheet will never show. This is a conversation inspired by The Psychology of Money, written by Morgan Housel. It's a book about how people actually behave with money, not how we're supposed to behave in a vacuum. You will not find a magic trick in its pages. What you will find is something far more valuable, a new lens. It reminds us that experience shapes beliefs, that two smart people can look at the same market and make opposite decisions, and both can be reasonable for their own lives. It reveals how compounding quietly does its work when we get out of its way. It argues that getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two very different arts. It asks us to define enough, to leave room for error, to prefer the reasonable plan we can stick with over the perfect plan we'll abandon at the first shock. And the next hour, I want you to gain more than knowledge. I want you to gain a new posture toward money, one that is calmer, kinder, and more durable. You'll hear stories you can see yourself in. You'll be challenged to confront habits that don't serve you. And you'll leave with practical ways to turn insight into action, to move from anxious guessing to intentional living. Consider this your quiet reset, a chance to make money a tool for the life you want instead of a measuring stick for the life you don't. Let's start with something simple that changes everything. No one is crazy about money. You make decisions from your own experiences, your childhood, your first job, the crisis you lived through, the moment you felt safe, the moment you didn't. If you grew up watching a parent lose a business, risk will taste different to you than it does to someone who watched their parents' index fund gently rise over decades. If your first memory of money is counting coins to split a pizza, saving will feel like oxygen. If your first memory is a new bike appearing every birthday, spending will feel like celebration. When you recognize this, you stop judging everyone else and you start becoming curious about yourself. What did I learn about money without anyone saying a word? Which memories do I still carry into every financial decision I make? Close your eyes for a moment and think back. What was the first time you felt money mattered? How old were you? Who was there? What did your body feel like? Tight? Excited? Scared? That memory has been whispering to you ever since. Bringing it into the light doesn't shame it. It frees you to choose a different response today. This is why two smart people can disagree. One person says the stock market is a casino. Another says it's a compounding machine. They're not arguing facts. They're defending memories. So here is your first practice. Before you copy anyone's strategy, ask, what game are they playing? Are they day trading because they enjoy the thrill and can afford the swings? while you are investing to buy back your time in 10 years? Are they optimizing for the highest possible return while you are optimizing for sleep? Money has many games. The mistake is thinking there is only one field, one scoreboard, one champion. When you notice you've been trying to win someone else's game, you've already taken your first step towards sanity. Now I want to take you to a quiet room where compounding works. Imagine planting a seed. For a while, nothing happens. You water the soil, you keep it in the sun, and your neighbor laughs because she thinks you're obsessed with a pot of dirt. Then, one day, there's a green sliver. And if you keep showing up, one day, there's shade. Compounding is ordinary persistence doing extraordinary things, but it has one condition. You cannot interrupt it out of boredom or fear. Many people know compounding exists. Few let it work because the in-between feels slow and the slow feels like failure. You will be tempted to jump to the next thing, to time the market, to cut in line for a better story. Ask yourself, do I need excitement from my investments or do I need results? Those are rarely the same. A practical way to honor compounding is to automate savings and investing so your mood doesn't have to give permission every month. Set a percentage that quietly moves from income to future, even if it's small. Name the destination with something that matters, like Freedom Fund or Time Fund, so the transfer feels like a gift to your future self instead of a punishment in the present. Then make a rule for yourself. I'm allowed to revisit my plan on a schedule, not on a whim. For example, review once a quarter or twice a year. This turns the volume down on daily noise and turns the focus up on staying in the game long enough for compounding to do what only time can do. Let's talk about getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. Getting wealthy often asks for optimism and a willingness to take risks. Staying wealthy, though, is about humility and defense. It asks you to be paranoid enough to leave room for error. Think of it like climbing a mountain. The summit gets all the photos, but most accidents happen on the way down. Many people spend their energy trying to reach the next level of return, when the bigger win is avoiding the mistakes that knock you back 3 levels. This is where a margin of safety matters. It's not laziness to keep cash on hand. It's not cowardice to diversify. It's not weakness to ensure what you can't afford to lose. It's wisdom. It's an acknowledgement that risk and luck are cousins, and both are always in the room. A question for you. Where in your financial life are you assuming everything must go right? If one thing went wrong, what would break first? And if you can name it, what small change could you make this week to build a little cushion there? Reasonable beats rational. Rational is a perfect spreadsheet that assumes you're a robot who never gets scared, never gets bored, never needs to touch the money early, never argues with the partner about priorities, never wakes up at 3 a.m. worrying about a sick parent. Reasonable says it's okay to choose an approach with slightly lower theoretical returns if you will actually stick to it for years. Reasonable says set your asset mix to the point where volatility is tolerable, not impressive. Reasonable says pay off a loan early if the certainty of being debt-free matters more to your nervous system than squeezing an extra % from the market. The goal isn't to win a math contest. The goal is to build a life you can breathe in. Ask yourself, where have I been chasing someone else's version of optimal? What would my version of sustainable look like? If you and your partner share finances, sit down and ask each other, when do we feel safe and when do we feel stretched? Write the answers down. They're part of your investment policy now. There's a paradox about status that can drain a lifetime. You buy the fancy car to be noticed. People do notice, just not in the way you imagine. They admire the car. They don't admire you. That's the trap. You can spend a fortune trying to purchase respect, when respect is mostly earned by how you treat people and how you carry yourself when no one is watching. The things we think will make us look successful often make us prisoners to the opinions of strangers. You've seen it, someone who keeps upgrading, never reaching the satisfaction they were sure the next thing would deliver. So consider redefining what a rich life looks like. Maybe it's not the photo of the house. Maybe it's the Tuesday afternoon when you walk your kid to the park because your calendar is yours. Maybe it's saying no to a client who doesn't align with your values because you are not financially desperate. Maybe it's the quiet confidence of an emergency fund that turns a crisis into an inconvenience. Ask, which purchases in the last year actually increased my day-to-day happiness? Which ones only impressed someone for 10 seconds? What would change if my first goal with money was to buy control over my time? Let's talk about enough. Enough is a moving target when you tie it to comparison. There will always be someone with more followers, more features, more zeros. The danger is not just envy, it's the risk you take to chase a number that has no finish line. You can risk what you already have and actually need for what you don't have and don't actually need. Enough is not a small life, it's a clear one. Defining enough is an antidote to reckless decisions. So take a deep breath and do this exercise with me. Picture your life 3 years from now. Who are you with on a normal weekday? How does your morning begin? How much of your day is under your control? How do you feel when you look at your bank account, your calendar, your health, your relationships? Now ask, if I had the money that funds that life, what number would be enough? Not perfect, not maximal, enough. Write that number down. Then ask, what is the price I'm unwilling to pay to reach above that number? Am I unwilling to trade my integrity, my relationships, my health, my sleep? Draw those boundaries. If you don't, the world will draw them for you, and the world is not gentle. We also need to accept that tails drive results. Most of your progress will come from a handful of good decisions you stuck with long enough, and most of your regrets will come from a handful of bad ones you refuse to walk away from. In markets, a small percentage of days often make the difference between a decent year and a great one. In careers, a small number of relationships can open doors you didn't know existed. In life, a small number of habits quietly build your character or quietly corrode it. This is not a reason to chase every possible tail event. It's a reason to stay in the game so you're present when good tails show up. Practically, this means diversify your bets and diversify your sources of meaning. Don't let one account determine your joy, one client determine your stability, one person determine your self-worth. Ask yourself, what are the few things, if they go right, would move the needle in my life? And what can I do to keep myself in the arena until they have a chance to arrive? Here's another truth that can change your temperaments almost overnight. Volatility is usually the fee, not the fine. If you treat every market decline as an error, you will spend your life apologizing to yourself. But if you see drops, setbacks, and uncertainty as the price you pay for the long-term growth you seek, your shoulders come down. You stop trying to dodge every rain cloud and start carrying an umbrella. What does this look like in practice? Before you invest, write a short letter to your future self. I expect that at some point, this portfolio will decline by X%. When it does, my plan is Y. Sign it. Put a date on it. Keep it where you can find it. During the storm, read your own words. You'll remember that you made a contract with reality, and reality is keeping its side of the bargain. Luck and risk deserve your respect. Two people can make the same decision with the same information and get opposite outcomes because the world has variables we cannot see. This should make you humble about your victories and gentle with your judgments of other people's failures. It should also make you diversify your identity. Don't become a single point of failure human. Don't concentrate your whole sense of self in any one outcome. Keep your skills sharp, your network warm, your curiosity alive. Ask yourself, what in my life depends on everything going right, and how can I spread that risk in both my finances and my identity? If money is a tool, what does it buy best? In the book, one answer stands above the rest: control of your time. Every other purchase is trying to imitate that feeling. The vacation is buying time away. The meal is buying someone else's time to cook and serve. The house near work is buying less time commuting. The rarest form of wealth is waking up and doing what you want, with whom you want, when you want. So design your financial system around increasing your share of days where that is true. That might mean choosing a simpler lifestyle so you need less income to fund your freedom. It might mean building a buffer so you can take a thoughtful career risk. It might mean setting a clear percentage of your earnings towards flexibility, not just things. A practical habit here is to schedule freedom days even before you fully arrived. Pick one day a month where you block your calendar and practice the life you're building. On that day, ask, what did I do? Who was I with? How did it feel? Then ask, what financial choices would increase the number of days like that? You're reverse engineering your wealth toward time, not trophies. Plans are fragile because the world changes, and so do you. This is not a problem to be solved. It's a reality to be designed for. Avoid strategies that only work if the future looks like the past. Avoid identities that only make sense if you never evolve. Leave space in your plan to change your mind gracefully. For example, keep liquidity for opportunities you can't name yet. Keep your fixed costs low enough that you can pivot without panic. Keep your goals in pencil and your values in ink. And when you look back, expect to be surprised by what mattered to you at different ages. That doesn't make you inconsistent. It makes you human. Ask, if I grant myself permission to change in the next 5 years, what am I willing to build that future flexibility on today? Let's make this practical with a simple framework you can revisit every quarter. First, write down your definition of enough. Second, list your top 3 values that money should serve in this season. Maybe freedom, family, health, creativity, learning, contribution. Third, describe the investing behavior that matches those values. If freedom is first, you might prioritize emergency savings and lower volatility. If growth is first and your time horizon is long, you might accept more short-term swings. Fourth, set rules for yourself that prevent ruin. For example, I do not use money I need in the next 3 years for volatile investments. I do not invest in something I don't understand. I do not borrow for the sake of image. I maintain insurance to protect against losses I cannot absorb. Finally, create a brief review ritual. On the first Saturday of the quarter, sit with your plan. Ask, are my values the same? What shifted? What stayed true? Then make small, boring updates and go live your life. What about the pressure we feel from other people's highlight reels? It's real. The easiest way to feel poor is to count someone else's money. The cure is not isolation. The cure is attention. Pay attention to your own progress, not their performance. Track the behaviors you control, your savings rate, your generosity, your learning, your sleep, your exercise, your screen time, your time with people you love. Ask, in the last 90 days, which of these trended in the right direction? And when you catch yourself scrolling and comparing, whisper this: I only see what they spend. I don't see what they save. I don't see their trade-offs. I don't see their midnight conversations. I don't see their fears. Then put your phone down and do something that makes your own life richer in the next 10 minutes. Walk, call a friend, cook, write, stretch, read one chapter. There's also a seductive edge to pessimism. Bad news sounds smart. Optimism can sound naive. But if you zoom out, human progress is a long arc of problems solved with new problems created at a smaller scale. The world is messy and moving forward. Rational optimism doesn't deny pain. It expects volatility and plans for it. It invests in the future not because tomorrow will be smooth, but because it tends to be better than yesterday if you persist. To practice rational optimism, pair your hopeful goals with protective systems. Be excited about what could go right and insured against what could go wrong. When the next scary headline hits, look for data that compares the timescale you're afraid of with the timescale you're investing on. Ask, am I reacting to a storm on the surface while my plan is anchored deeper? Then take one small constructive action. Fund the emergency account, rebalance if you're off target, or simply go for a run to bleed off the adrenaline that wants to turn into a rash decision. Let's bring this home with a handful of behaviors that compound into character. Save money not just for what it buys, but for who it makes you. Saving builds autonomy. It lets you choose projects for meaning, not desperation. It lowers the emotional volume of a rough week. If you can, make saving your default rather than an act of heroism. Automate what you can. When you get a raise or a new client, increase your saving rate before your lifestyle rises to meet the new income. Protect the gap between earning and spending. This gap is the engine of your freedom. Develop a bias towards simplicity. Complexity is exciting in the short run and fragile in the long run. A portfolio you understand, with costs you can see and behavior rules you can follow, will almost always be a clever strategy you abandon at the first sign of trouble. Finally, be generous, not because it signals virtue, but because generosity loosens fear's grip on you. It reminds you that money is a river, not a reservoir, and you are part of something larger than your own balance sheet. If you want to take immediate action, try this experiment this week. Block 1 hour. During the first 20 minutes, write a money timeline of your life. Key experiences, both painful and joyful, that shaped how you think about earning, spending, saving, and investing. During the second 20 minutes, write your definition of enough and your top 3 values for the next year. During the last 20 minutes, translate those into 3 rules you will actually follow. Put the page somewhere visible. Tell someone you trust what you wrote. Behavior loves accountability. And then do one small thing before you sleep that aligns with the page. Set an automatic transfer, cancel a subscription, rename an account to reflect its purpose, or write a short letter to your future self about how you want to feel when it comes to money. Small signals compound into big shifts. I hope you can feel a subtle change inside you right now. Not the giddy rush of a quick win, but the slow confidence of someone who knows the ground they stand on. You don't need more noise. You need a quieter, stronger story. Money is not your enemy. It's not your God. It's a tool that reflects your values back to you. The psychology of money invites you to stop pretending you're a robot and build a plan for a real human. A plan that forgives your past, understands your present, and respects your future. If you want a guiding sentence to carry into tomorrow, try this. I will build a life where money buys me time, margin, and choices. Because those are the real riches that make every other good thing possible. As we close, I want to leave you with a picture you can return to. Imagine a table. On it lies a simple sheet of paper with 5 lines. The first line says, "My money serves these values." The second says, "My definition of enough is." The third says, "My rules that prevent ruin are." The fourth says, "My plan to buy time is." The fifth says, "My review date is." Now imagine that this paper becomes worn from use. You revisit it when you're anxious. You revise it when you grow. You defend it when the world tries to sell you a bigger, louder life you don't actually want. Over time, this paper is not just a plan. It's a mirror. It reflects a person who knows what matters and uses money to protect and express it. That person is you. You may never own the flashiest thing in the room, but you will often own the calmest nervous system in the room. You will walk a little lighter. You will say yes more honestly and no more easily. You will sleep well. You will be generous without resentment. And when someone asks you what wealth means, you will smile and say, "It means I get to decide how I spend my day." The lights outside your window will keep flickering. The headlines will keep shouting. But inside, there will be a quiet voice that says, "I'm okay. I'm doing the work. I'm building something that lasts." Money is part of it, but not all of it. And the part it plays now is kinder, wiser, and firmly in service of a life I'm proud to live. Here's the takeaway line I hope echoes for you long after this ends. Let money be the servant that buys your freedom, not the master that rents your attention.